Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports,
we gear up for the MLB playoffs.
Look at some disappointing teams in college football.
Talk about some NBA all-time greats.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts
right now. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of One-on-One Sports. I'm Cam Soselsky.
And I'm Thomas Hale. College football is in full swing, the NBA and NHL are gearing up, and the MLB playoff push is winding down. So let's get right to it with the quick hitters. FIFA has decided to end their anti-racism campaign, declaring that they have achieved all their goals and that the program will no longer be in operation. However, a day later at a match in Scotland, there was a racist incident. Also, many soccer experts are worried for the future as there have been many racist chants and incidents in Russia, the next host of the World Cup. So, Cam, how do you think this will affect soccer and possibly the World Cup?
You know what, this decision by FIFA boggles my mind.
I'm
it
so
makes
confused.
no sense to me.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. The fact that you think, we've achieved all our goals, but incidents like this.
I want to know what those goals are, too.
Yeah, right? Like, what were these benchmarks that you met? Because,
you just solved racism like that? Like it's over now?
It's like right off the bat.
Okay.
Like, soccer is an international sport. A lot of people from different ethnicities, a lot of diversity going on. And racism, it is a major issue. And acknowledging that it is an issue is the first step. Yeah, and saying that it is so boneheaded, in my opinion. I don't know.
It's a bad move by FIFA.
Baffles me.
Yeah.
FIFA baffles me on this decision. Browns wide receiver Josh Gordon has decided to check himself into an in-care rehab facility after violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. Roger Goodell reinstated Gordon after he broke the drug policy after failing a drug test in March. With this recent move by Gordon, do you think it's time for the NFL to revisit this drug policy?
I think it's absolutely time to revisit it. I mean, the reason why he's in there in the first place is for smoking some weed, and I think that's a real harsh punishment for something like that. But also, the thing is that a lot of these guys get cleared, and they just don't get checked on after that. And as you can see, Josh Gordon is a repeat offender.
Absolutely.
And they need to have a guy checking in on them even after they've been cleared.
Well, and I think this is just a theme with the NFL. You look at them handling player health in such a terrible way. Obviously, we have the concussion issue.
Yeah.
The drug issue and the drug policy is another big thing that they're just handling very poorly. And one of the major tells of that is you have so many repeat offenders, guys who are getting in trouble for drugs and then continually getting in trouble for drugs.
They obviously don't see it as a big deal.
And Josh Gordon is one of those guys.
Exactly, and they need to fix it.
Absolutely.
Do something about it.
Do something.
After recently failing his latest physical, Miami Heat GM Pat Riley stated that all-star forward Chris Bosh no longer has a career in Miami. Bosh has been dealing with blood clots over the past 2 years, putting his NBA career in a state of flux. Do you think Pat Riley made a good decision, or did he handle this poorly?
I think in terms of the future of this team, you had to make this decision. You had to, cut Bosh.
I agree.
At the end of the day. Whether or not he handled this the right way, he handled it in a Pat Riley way. I will say that.
My thing is that I don't think he really did. I think it was the right decision to cut Bosh because you don't want to invest in this guy. He's going to have injuries.
Absolutely.
But he didn't really acknowledge what Chris Bosh did for their franchise. You don't really think about it much, but Chris Bosh bought 2 championships to Miami.
He absolutely did. But when you're talking about Pat Riley, you're talking about a guy coming to the end of his coaching career, or management career, excuse me, a guy that wants to win, wants to bring championships. And I don't think he has time for players like Chris Bosh.
Understood.
Obviously, not very respectful in the way he handled it, but I think at the end of the day, it was the right call.
Yeah, it was a good move.
Les Miles, one of the most popular and winningest coaches for LSU, was fired after a lackluster start to the season this year. Currently, interim head coach Ed Orgeron holds the reins for now. But who do you think is going to pick up this coaching position for LSU?
I like this question. I've got Chris Peterson, the Washington head coach.
Yep.
He's got an undefeated Husky team. They got a great defense, and I think that that's what LSU needs. And my thing about it is that it may not look like a likely move, but I think Peterson could make this move because he wants to go to a stronger conference like the SEC, get his name out there, play stronger teams.
You know what? That is the real question. The real question for Peterson, and also for my guy, Tom Herman with Houston.
Great choice.
Obviously, has had a great year and a half almost at Houston now. And the question is whether he wants to lead that program.
Yeah.
And I think with Peterson in Washington, you got a great thing going. With Herman in Houston, you got a great thing going.
Exactly.
For Herman anyway, I think he should stay. I think he should stay in Houston and keep building this program after the phenomenal start.
Houston could be such a great team in the future. Another one of those big Texas teams.
Absolutely. And Texas is a great football state, and he's definitely brought some great coaching.
Love it.
Absolutely.
That's all for the quick hitters, but don't even think about changing the dial. Evan and Ellie are here to take MLB playoffs after the break.
Welcome back to One-on-One Sports. We are in the first week of October, so you know what that means. Playoff baseball. Evan and Ellie are here to preview this year's Fall Classic. Now, y'all, we've had a great year in baseball, set up for a great postseason. Ellie, kick us off. The Cubs have had a great regular season. Are they going to get it done in the postseason?
Absolutely. I projected in April that the Cubs would be the World Series champions.
Means nothing.
I'm going with it.
Means nothing.
Well, they have the best record in baseball. Does that mean nothing?
Still means nothing. You look back, 2001 Seattle Mariners, 116 wins, didn't even get past the divisional round. So
Or do they have players like Jake Arrieta, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo?
Well, that's in the past. I'm going the field this year.
That's in the past. They're current players.
All right, shit.
It's okay.
Success in the past.
Success in
I
the
know
past.
exactly
Success
what
in the
you're
past
saying. I
with
know
the
exactly what
Mariners.
you're saying.
I have to go the field on this one. You know, there are plenty of other teams. You have the Red Sox, you have the Giants. Obviously, you can't count those out. Those two teams and the Red Sox have been playing out of this world this year as well. In the American League, you know, Big Poppies last year. See if they can bring another ring
I just
home.
think that 100 years without a pendant is too long. It's got to break soon.
You know, Evan, it's going to be very competitive, but I'm believing in the Cubs. I think they're going to get it done this year. I'm pulling for them. It's been far too long for the city of Chicago. Additionally, it's an even year. I don't know if you guys know this, but 2016 is an even year, and it seems like every even year the Giants win the World Series. Evan, are they going to get it done this year?
Well, like I just mentioned, I believe yes. I mean, you got the Giants sneaking into the playoffs this year, going in the wild card game, and they've done that in years past and just gone on a roll. Madison Bumgarner seems like he pitches almost every single game, and they just flat out win. And I believe, you know, with Cueto also on the staff this year and Jeff Samardzija coming in there, you got actually three pitchers.
If you believe in these baseball gods, yeah, I think that the even year definitely means something. But also, in the years that they did win the World Series in 2010, 2012, and 2014, they had a better record. This is the worst record they've had. And also, they were not a wild card team then. Those other years, they finished first in the division or second in 2014. And they're a wild card team. So you have a little bit more competition. Is it possible? Yes. I am going with yes. But I think it's not going to be as easy.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you both there. Evan, you brought up pitchers. So the NL has been pretty solid with pitchers this year. The AL, not so much. So Game 7 in the American League, you have one pitcher. Who are you taking, Ellie?
I'm with Corey Kluber of the Cleveland Indians. He's just been pretty consistent. He was the 2014 Cy Young Award winner. And like you said, the AL just doesn't have these pitchers. The Cleveland Indians have been playing well, and he is starting, I believe, the second game of for the Indians coming up.
I mean, I can't really argue with Kluber, but I can do one better and go Rick Porcello out of Boston. You know, this year 22-4, ERA of 3.15. He hasn't allowed more than 3 runs 5 times this year. He's been pitching great. You know,
I would agree, but I don't know if he's better. I mean, Kluber has a 3.14 ERA, so a little bit better. So I don't know if he's exactly a better choice. Yes, they're both good pitchers, but
and great
we'll see.
offenses backing him up.
You know, y'all, I think we can all agree, 2 great pitchers there. Personally, I'm going with Purcell. I'm going with you, Evan, on that one. I think he's just had a better year this year. But it is surely going to be a great October. I know I'll be watching. After the break, I'll be back at the desk talking NCAA football with Alex and Miles. Stay tuned.
Son, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
It's no fairy tale that the right fit means everything, especially when it comes to car seats. Always choose one that's the right fit for your child's age and size.
That does make a difference.
To find out more, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
That's low. That's low. That's low and below. Look, he's blushing. Seriously.
College football is now in full swing, and we saw some incredible action this past weekend. Alex and Miles now join me at the desk to talk about some teams that really haven't lived up to expectation. So now, Miles, with Ole Miss, it seems like they're on, they're off, they're on, they're off. Are you quitting on the Rebels this year, or do you think they'll have a good season?
I am not quitting on the Rebels this year. As far as playoffs are concerned, this team is done because a two-loss team, Ole Miss, I just don't see it happening. But Ole Miss this season is not a failure. They're in the best division in college football right now, the SEC West. You got Alabama, who they came so close to beating. Granted, they did blow a lead in that game. And they lost to Florida State. That loss looking a little bit worse now.
And blowing leads has been a bit of an issue for them. I think defensively there's some work left to do there. But I think they do definitely have hope for a good season. No playoffs this year, maybe next year. They got a lot of good young talent. Chad Kelly, really good
best quarterback in the SEC, in my opinion.
Really
right
good
now.
quarterback. And they have a really nice young receiving core. I think we could be talking about them next year in the playoff
The rest of their schedule is not that bad either. They already got Bama out of the way. LSU just fired Les Miles. So there's a bit of instability there. Mississippi State, we don't really know. We've got Auburn. Who knows what's going on with Auburn? Auburn's night and day. So you don't really know. I mean, I can see this team having a 10-win year.
Yeah, you could see a good quality bowl win out of Ole Miss this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so maybe not the biggest disappointment. Let's talk about the biggest disappointment in college football. Which team is that for you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I mean, you look at them. They started the season ranked number 5 overall. So that means if they're not in the playoff, they're right on the edge, knocking on the door. And no, their 2 losses weren't horrible. I mean, they were to 2 top 10 teams in Wisconsin, and I believe the other was... a couple tough losses. And Ohio State. Ohio State, number 2. Ohio State, number 2 in the nation. So, I mean, I think, but if you're going to be in the playoffs, you have to win at least one of those games.
That's absolutely true. But, I mean, you say those 2 teams are somewhat decent. I've got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who now have 2 horrible losses on their schedule. Now, Texas, it looked like, maybe Texas was back at the very beginning. Maybe this is going to be a new Texas team. Turns out they're not that great. And then that Duke loss was absolutely unacceptable if you're a Notre Dame
that's
fan.
dreadful. I mean,
absolutely unacceptable.
Their defense has been pretty god-awful so far.
Brian Van Gorder could not get the job done, and we saw this weekend against Syracuse. In the first 5 minutes, it was already They were scoring 28 points. That can beat Syracuse. That can beat Syracuse. That can't beat the Miamis and the Stanfords of the world.
Yeah. You know, I will say though, because of those terrible losses, they are the bigger disappointment for me. It's got to be Notre Dame. Yes, Oklahoma came in at number 5, but those are quality losses. Notre Dame really just crapped the bed on that one, which is terrible. All right, so to close us out, which team who has had a disappointing start has a bright future? We talked a little bit about Ole Miss. Is there another team, Miles, that has a bright future moving forward?
I got to go with my hometown Georgia Bulldogs.
Okay.
They've got a new head coach this year in Kirby Smart, former defensive coordinator at Alabama. They've got a true freshman starting at quarterback. He was the number 1 overall quarterback recruit this past year in Jacob Eason. Almost won the game for those Bulldogs this past weekend, besides that Tennessee loss, which was a freak. But you see Kirby Smart, what he did at Alabama. He recruited from Georgia, got all those defensive players from Georgia. Now imagine what he can do in Georgia. They already have the number 5 recruiting class this year alone. That's just going to keep growing right now. It's a very young team. They keep recruiting running backs. Chubb's going to go, but they still got Sony Michel. They still got a bunch more.
Yeah, and Georgia definitely has a really bright future there. I love the play of young quarterback Jacob Eason over there. But I'm going to go with Notre Dame, actually, because, I mean, even going forward this season, if they can defend a lick, they have one of, if not the best quarterback prospect in the country with Deshaun Kaiser over there. And I think he's a guy who by himself can get you in a bowl game at least.
You know, and we saw that with the Michigan Wolverines. You know, once that team had a defense under Harbaugh, then you see the success. I see the same thing happening with Notre Dame. We'll see if those teams can turn it around moving forward. Up next, we move from the gridiron to the hardwood as Thomas hits the desk to discuss NBA basketball with Dom. Stick around.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with our NBA expert, Dom Vernazza, and we're going to talk some basketball. A lot of NBA greats are retiring this year, including Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Kevin Garnett. So let's play a little manager, Dom. Who would you start a franchise with? But before we do that, let's talk about these three guys. Let's talk about Kobe.
The Black Mamba. What is there to say? I mean, Kobe obviously is one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, third all-time in points scored, and that was really his calling card throughout his time there. He was almost impossible to stop.
Yeah.
You know, he was a great mid-range shooter towards the end.
Drive.
Oh,
everything.
of course.
Shoot
So
the three.
athletic. You know, was a 19-year-old dunk champion.
Yeah.
He added the post-game as he got older. But what was really underrated about him is he's actually 9-time all first-team defense. You know,
So you don't hear about that.
You really don't. I mean, I think he's such a good scorer, but in his prime, he was also a defensive stopper. And maybe towards the end, some of those were reputation, but he could shut people down on defense. Obviously, won 5 titles and really
I think a big
20
part
years on the Lakers.
of the defense was that he just had that urge for like wanting the ball. And I think that was a big part of driving his defense is that he wanted that ball back, he wanted to score.
And I mean, Kobe, the ultimate winner, really. I mean, you knew he's the guy who would do whatever it took to win, offense, defense. You know, maybe James Harden could learn a thing or two.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we'll see about that. Let's go to KG now. What about him?
So one of the most interesting things about KG is he's actually the first prep to pros player in almost 20 years.
Okay.
And a lot of people at the time were kind of skeptical. Could someone come out of high school and, you know, have success? They weren't sure.
You don't see it very often.
No, at the time you really didn't. And KG kind of showed, yes, you could. And he really set that path for others like LeBron and Dwight Howard would eventually follow.
Right.
I mean, obviously a great defender. Was you know, one defensive player of the year with the Celtics. But he really had an all-around game. Him and Michael Jordan are the only players to lead franchises in all 5 of the main categories for their career stats.
Him at the Timberwolves was nuts. Like, he just ran the whole team.
I mean, he was a great passer, great rebounder, you know, great defender, and he could score too. He had a nice mid-range shot, and then he moved on to the Celtics and helped them win a championship.
What I like about KG is that he brought a toughness to the Timberwolves that, you know, if he wasn't there, guys would just drive right in the paint and score.
KG was crazy.
If you drive in the paint and you see Kevin Garnett standing there with his hands up blocking the rim, you're going to think twice.
Yeah,
you're
this
gonna
guy
wanna
you just
pump
saw
that ball
banging
out.
his head against the backboard. This guy was crazy. You did not want to drive him. Yeah, he set the culture for a team, you know, of hard work. And
that's
he's a great trash talker.
It's just, that's the best part about him. Him and Kobe trash talk, best thing I've seen. All right, how about the last one, Tim Duncan? What can you say?
So very much opposite of that. Tim Duncan was always a quiet leader. He actually played 4 years of college, so when he came into the league, he was ready to roll.
Seasoned.
He joined a Spurs team that had a lot of injury problems the year before, so they got the pick, but they had a great core. They had Hall of Famer David Robinson,
and that was
Greg
a great
Popovich.
duo. You can't learn from anyone better, I think, than David Robinson.
And it really set the culture because Tim Duncan saw that David Robinson stepped aside and let it become Tim Duncan's team, which Tim Duncan would then later do for, you know, Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge. By his 3rd season, he won a championship. It's cool to see history repeating like that. Yeah, it really is. But, you know, great offensive player, amazing team defender, even up till his last seasons. He was one of the best players in the league at defense, so smart. And, I mean, just a quiet, humble guy. You know, he constantly, I mean, the epitome of a team player.
The best part about Tim Duncan, I think, is, like you said, is his leadership. And, you know, he took the role of leader, like, automatically right when David Robinson retired. He had a brand new team, and he led them to championships all those years afterwards, and it's great to see.
Well, exactly, just how, you know, he won one in 1999, and he won one in 2004.
Kept it going.
It's just crazy. I mean, how many different play styles, you know, he watches his team evolve, he evolved. It's just one of the best players of all time.
All right, so who'd you pick out of these guys?
This was tough. For me, it really came down to Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan.
Right.
But in the end, I felt they were so close, I had to go Kobe. And I was just thinking, you know, it's a playoff game. I'm down 5 seconds left. Who do I want the ball in the hands of? And I love Tim Duncan, but I had to go Kobe.
Okay.
And I mean, to be honest, all these players are so equally matched that
it's a great class.
You know,
of retiring players. It's insane.
I got to go a little bit of marketability too. I mean, Kobe sells. Tim Duncan, I mean, I love his game, but Kobe was just Kobe. You turned on the TV to watch Kobe, you know?
Right, yeah.
The highlights, everything. He became must-see TV. He was a great winner. At times, his personality was a little tough. He kind of drove Shaq out. He didn't always get along with Dwight Howard.
That's my big issue with him is that's why I chose Tim Duncan is because Kobe's attitude problems in his prime were really the reason why a lot of teams or a lot of players didn't want to play in LA. You saw Dwight Howard leave. and then Shaq left. But Tim Duncan, he's one of those guys that can work for the team.
I definitely agree with you, but I still think Kobe managed to win his 5 titles, and I feel his attitude was more just he wanted to win so bad that anyone who couldn't quite match the intent. I mean, you look at the players he drove out, and it was, Shaq, Dwight Howard, some questions about, maybe maturity at times. So I think he just wanted to win so much, and
it's a good pick.
He sets a good culture.
It's a good pick. I wish we could still see these guys in action, but they all made a huge impact on the basketball world. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back to go over some Champions League soccer.
The next 30 seconds can save you a lot of money. Just do your laundry in cold and stick to full loads. Auto-sleep your computers. Plug your gadgets in a power strip and switch it off when you're done. Headed out? Turn back your thermostat by 10 degrees. And drive sensibly. The more energy you save, the more money you save. Find other great tips at energysaver.gov.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning. 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash? 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
The UEFA Champions League is well underway, and there have been some very exciting matches. I've got Jenny Berman and Ryan Meisinger in the studio today to discuss what we've seen so far. So guys, after 2 group stage games so far, which team is looking on top?
So I'm going to go with Dortmund. They haven't been great. They haven't been awful. They've been good. They're in a group with Real Madrid. And I say Dortmund because they look solid. And in this group stage, you want a team to look solid so they can advance to the knockout stage.
They look solid, but I don't know if they're the strongest team. They didn't even win all their games.
Well, it's tough when you're in a group with Real Madrid. But
well, I know it's tough, but if they're saying that they're the strongest team, they aren't even the top of the group.
I mean, that's fair, but when you're in a group with one of the best teams in the world and you're Dortmund, you're exceeding expectations.
That doesn't mean that they're the strongest, though. It's still Dortmund.
Fair. No, that's a fair point, yeah.
They're exceeding expectations, but I don't think they're the strongest going in. But I'm going to say that Barcelona is the strongest because...
Shocker.
I mean...
Barcelona is the... Oh, okay.
But they are. Here's the thing, that they came in, they went to Celtic, they beat them 5-1, and then Celtic, drew with Man City when it looked like they would be the pushover team. Then and if they were, I would have said that Barcelona isn't, but they beat them 5-1.
Well, Celtic's still Celtic. They're kind of a
pushover but they're
team.
not. And then they went into Mönchengladbach, and they hadn't lost in 11 games at home, and they beat them without Messi at home.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to side with Ryan for this one. I'm gonna stick with him because they got Real in the group, and that just says a lot. It says a lot to me. So going off of that, though, what do we think is the biggest surprise, Jenny?
I think the biggest surprise has to be Napoli. And I know that that's a little out there, but the fact of the matter is that everyone pretty much thought they got into the Champions League because of Higuain. He got sold. They were burning his jersey in the street. Yeah. And all of a sudden, now they're at the top of their group against, it's not a great group, but it's a decent group. Benfica was in the quarterfinals. They beat them 4-2. And it's kind of just these wins by committee in essence.
I mean, listen, it's good for Napoli. Napoli is not like a household name. Right. They're not a team that's usually in the Champions League. But for me, I go back to Dortmund. You already said they're not like the strongest team. So that makes them, does that make them an underdog? I mean, what
I
does
don't know
that
if they're
make
like an underdog or anything, but I think second in the group is kind of where they were supposed
but it's
to
second,
be.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Second in the group to Madrid. I've made that point before. But the team, Aubameyang, Royce, Pulisic, the American dream, 17 years old,
really
an assist, 2 assists.
It's not really
but
a surprise.
It's still
they have all these.
because it's
they have all these stars, though. They have all these great players, and yeah, like maybe it's Dortmund. They're not a house.
They're just not usually expected to.
Right, you don't expect them, but I think that if you're in the know a little bit, you know.
I'm going to agree with Jenny on this one. I like Napoli, and I do think that everyone kind of counted them out once Higuain went to Juventus. So for the last one, let's predict who's going to win it.
I would love to make like a crazy answer where everyone's heads in the studio spin, but I think you and I are going to make kind of highly predictable answers.
Is it a usual?
I'm going to go with Madrid.
Yeah.
You know, I just like what
Which
Ronaldo
one?
has done. Real Madrid. I mean, I like what they've done. Ronaldo has been a winner recently, and I'm not a guy to throw winner, around as a term, but he's done well. He had the Euro Cup this summer and then Champions League 2 years ago. I like what they're doing.
Yeah.
Here's my problem. I feel like the reason that they got into the final last year, Real Madrid, was because they kind of had an easy route there. They didn't play the best of the best teams, and with Barcelona, right now they don't have Messi, so they're not looking as great as they normally do. When they get Messi back, they're still going to be one of the top teams, and their defense is a little young, but they've still done so well.
The only thing I have with Messi is he's had time struggling in championships recently, Copa America, World Cups.
But he struggles with Argentina. He hasn't struggled with Barcelona.
Fair. We don't want to get into a Ronaldo-Messi debate. That's a whole different show, but I'm going to stick with Ryan on this one. I like Real. They're on a roll. Ronaldo's winning. He's going to keep winning.
Love him.
Love him. But we've got a lot to look forward to as group play continues, and we'll see if either of these predictions come true. So coming up after the break, Cam and I will be right back to talk about the Ryder Cup.
The Ryder Cup golf semi-annual tournament between the USA and Europe took place this weekend. Thomas, what were your biggest takeaways from the weekend?
I got 3 things.
Okay.
Phil Mickelson and Sergio Garcia, their matchup this weekend, best I've seen in a long time.
Oh, you talking
19 birdies.
Yeah, 2 guys who have been around the block a time or two. They brought it. They were ready to play. It was great golf.
It was awesome to see. Next thing, Patrick Reed upsetting Rory McIlroy. That was huge.
You know what? That's a big trend for me this year. The U.S. brought it this year. Prior to this year's Ryder Cup, the past 7 of them, the U.S. had only won 1. The U.S. looked real good.
They wanted it this time.
Absolutely.
But the final thing I've got, my main takeaway, let's talk about the legend that is David Johnson. David Johnson was a fan on the sidelines. He's heckling Rory McIlroy and saying he can't make this putt, can't make this putt. Henrik Stenson comes up, slaps a $100 bill on the green and says, you make the putt. If you make it, you can pick up this $100 bill and go home, buy yourself something nice. David Johnson steps up, sinks it in front of the whole crowd. Everyone goes nuts.
Yeah.
That was my favorite story.
No,
from the weekend.
incredible. On film, and you talk about the PGA and golf as a whole, wanting to be a more fun sport, relating to a younger generation. I thought this was great for that.
Yeah, it got the tournament out there. Tons of people saw this, went viral. It was a great story.
No, it looked like something out of Happy Gilmore.
I loved it.
Absolutely. And then you had Ricky Fowler too. You see that Ricky Fowler
Yeah,
photo?
yeah.
Where everybody's smooching in the background,
And he's just sitting there
like,
hey.
Again, it's changing the culture of golf. I thought this weekend was tremendous for the sport, especially in America.
It was the most exciting golf match I've seen in a long time, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for this episode of 101 Sports.
Huge thanks to all the producers, crew, and talent here at the show, and you, the viewer, for tuning in.
If you missed anything, please make sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at 101 Sports. For all of us here at 101 Sports, thank you for watching, and as always,
whose side are you on?